J.R.R. Tolkien went out of his way to tell his readers he wasn't preaching. In his foreword to The Lord of the Rings, he wrote that he cordially disliked allegory in all its manifestations. This put him at odds with his close friend, C.S. Lewis, who built the Chronicles of Narnia on a strict one-to-one Christian allegory, where Aslan is an explicit stand-in for Jesus. This leaves us with a paradox. If Tolkien avoided direct preaching, and there is no God character in the story, why does Middle-earth operate with such a heavy sense of fate, moral law, and divine timing? Tolkien's solution was to avoid the surface-level metaphor and instead build the physics of his world on his own Christian worldview. The story is driven by the internal logic of how his universe actually functions. This logic aligns with historical Reformed standards like the Westminster and Belgic Confessions. These documents codify a specific view of human nature and divine providence that governs the mechanics of Tolkien's world. Applying these theological rules reveals the unseen framework of the narrative. The religion is the internal software that determines how the story unfolds. The One Ring is a mechanism of absolute spiritual and psychological corruption. It erodes the user's free agency until they are thin and stretched. Gollum is the ultimate example, a creature who both loved and hated the ring, but had no will left to discard it. This mirrors the Reformed doctrine of total depravity. It suggests that corruption isn't just a bad habit, but an inherited decay that infects every part of a person's nature. Article 14 of the Belgic Confession describes humans as slaves of sin, unable to do anything good by their own power. This is why even characters like Elrond or Frodo cannot resist the ring through simple heroic effort. Their internal will is not strong enough to overcome the ring's external pull. In this universe, the mortal will is inherently broken. Characters cannot save themselves through willpower alone. If no one is strong enough to resist evil on their own, how is the ring ever destroyed? The story relies on a series of highly unlikely events. The most famous is Bilbo Baggins stumbling through the dark and putting his hand exactly on the lost ring in the bottom of a mountain. Gandalf later clarifies that this wasn't a random accident. He tells Frodo that Bilbo was meant to find the ring, and Frodo was meant to have it. This is the concept of sovereign providence, a world where seemingly random events are orchestrated by a purposeful, overarching design. The Westminster Shorter Catechism describes God as governing all actions of his creatures. In this system, even the wicked choices of enemies like Sauron are redirected to fulfill a just outcome. The heroes are part of a plan that is far larger than their own strength. Their success depends on playing a small role in a design they cannot fully see. Since the heroes lack the strength to save themselves, victory cannot be earned through heroic merit or works. Bilbo's choice to spare Gollum was an act of unmerited pity. Gandalf insists that this specific mercy, choosing not to kill a wretched enemy, is the key to saving the world. This narrative act mirrors the Reformed doctrine of sovereign grace. It teaches that salvation is granted by pure goodness, regardless of whether the recipient deserves it. We see this role of the healer in Aragorn. His legitimacy as the rightful king is proven by his power to restore the dying. As the old Gondorian lore says, the hands of the king are the hands of a healer. This draws from the Heidelberg Catechism's definition of Christ's mediatorial office, a king who governs his people and heals the spiritual ruin of his world. In Tolkien's world, the final victory is always an outside gift. Unmerited grace for the individual, and a mediating healer for the nations. This reveals what Tolkien meant by applicability. While Middle-earth lacks a direct Jesus metaphor, its structural system is built on Christian logic. The Lord of the Rings resonates because it mirrors a specific spiritual reality, a world of flawed beings, guided by unseen hands, whose ultimate hope relies entirely on unmerited grace.